Good afternoon, everybody. It is great to have you all join us today. We'll give it a couple of seconds, but we wanted our whole board to be able to join you today on this New Year's Eve as we sign off on 2020. And we've had so many people that have talked about we need to get rid of this year and we need to move towards a new one. It's going to be fresh and new. I look at it as a on both ways. I honestly think that there's some blessings that have happened in 2020 because of what we've gone through. We want to review some of those things, and then we want to give you lots of hope and that towards 2021. But we wanted to join you for just a few minutes this afternoon. And Tammy and Jason, say hello.
Hey, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Well, listen, one of those huge blessings of 2020 was we got to meet each other. And last year, New Year's, when we were getting ready to grow into 2020, we were all on different paths, going different directions, and the Lord brought our lives together. It was through crisis, but a lot of new friendships have happened here in 2020 that I'm really thankful for.
I've said the same thing. I think probably the biggest thing that I'm thankful for, even though this has been a crazy year, a wild ride that none of us saw coming, and there's been a lot of heartache, but I met all of you. I never knew you guys before this year, so it's been a huge meeting the team, it's been a huge blessing, the new friendships and the relationships that I have just because of Stand Up Michigan. So I'm focusing on the blessings. I'm focusing on the good.
And to connect with this patriotic spirit that is alive and well in the state of Michigan, and all the people that we got to meet at all the rallies and to be able to connect with them in different ways. I mean, we definitely created a Stand Up Michigan family this year, and that's well beyond the people represented on this broadcast and then some of our other personalities, but to all the thousands and thousands and thousands of people that interacted with us this year, we're connected like we were not connected last year.
You're right. And I think that's part of what has happened this year is that as we realized what was happening and we reacted to that, we reacted appropriately. We reacted out of faith, out of a sense of justice and righteousness, what is right and what is good and what is true. And we stood for truth and freedom like we have not done in a long time because we haven't had to, right? So we really wakened the sleeping giant, and we've forged a lot of great friendships, met a lot of great patriots. And what we started here in Michigan has really been contagious. That was courage. What we did, what we stood up and we did was courage. And courage is very contagious. And we've watched people all over this country respond and all over the world. Ron and I have been talking with people from all over the world. So it's been a great year in those aspects.
It has been. And, I know that I look at what we faced and what our challenges have been. It happened a lot because of COVID-19, but it also happened, I think, because there were a lot of things that were moving in this direction, and it was going to take something to wake us up. I think the socialism and that type of thing was already moving in long before the COVID issue came up, and the lockdowns that some of the governors, including obviously our illustrious governor, have done with her 190 executive orders and so on. But, I'm one of those that really doesn't always look so much into the past and all the things you've done, because I'm always looking forward. I'm always saying, how do we structurally plan? What's next? How are we going to be 2 to 3 steps ahead of what we need to accomplish in the future? But I just wanted to run through a number of things and then have you guys comment on them. I made some notes here, so I'm just going to utilize some of them. But 9 months ago when we were founded, obviously it was a crazy Facebook group that was founded specifically because of the lockdowns and people needing to find an outlet, the Michiganders Against Excessive Quarantine. Now, the important thing was it did grow astronomically in a few short days, but what sustained that was our decision very early on to move to just talking about stories and what people were going through rather than regurgitating articles that were already out there on the internet. And when we did that, people began to bond and with each other and identified with each other's struggles individually. They began to not look at their own problems only, but started to look at that everybody else and a lot of other people were worse off than they were, whether it was a job or unemployment, or whether it was isolation or or illness, or rather it was, their businesses being crushed or shut down or locked down. So all of them had different things. But in those 9 months, we started out literally within first week, we had meetings with some senators and some House members to talk about what it was they were doing with these executive orders. One of the first big things we did was we got a survey done of over 21,000 filled out surveys in a 48-hour period that were submitted directly to our governor in an effort for them not to extend her past April 30th. And thank God we stopped that at the last minute. And without all of you, that would not have happened. That was one of our big first successes as an organization, was crashing computers, making phone calls, sending emails, and whatever it was there. So we go from there, and we were working towards developing an actual website. We got taken down, as you know, in May. The whole thing was wiped out, and we were ready to go. We weren't quite ready, but we made it happen. In 48 hours, we went live with a website. We had a way for people to somehow connect. We then started a new page, and we kind of moved forward from afresh. And literally, we had 50,000 members in a short period of time. The next big thing I want to mention that a lot of times gets lost in the past is we actually helped draft legislation. That is something that an organization of a grassroots simply doesn't normally get involved in, or doesn't have the ability to do, and doesn't have the ear or the ability certainly to have it carried through. But it was because of some of the people like David Scarlin, who helped in the writing and the drafting of this. It was looking specifically at what was necessary and needed in regard to the science and data that we weren't being provided. And you know that passed the House and the Senate. It is a House bill and a Senate bill. It will be forever in the logbooks, and that was drafted under and through Stand Up Michigan, which was a huge accomplishment.
And
started. Go ahead.
I think that's just to be real, say that, because that kind of brings us real to some of our current issues. That's a great example of our relationship with the legislature. It's us writing things for them, not the other way around. I mean, it's the flow of influence has gone that way. It's us taking the grassroots and influencing them. And that piece of that Senate bill and House concurrent resolution that was way back in the very beginning of this is a great example of that, of what we've been doing. That was us influencing them and trying to get them to do the right thing.
And that has continued till today. And when people talk about, we just touch on that, about our relationships with some of the leadership. Understand, they didn't give us the time of day in the beginning. Right. They had their staff that were talking with us, and that was it. And literally after one meeting, I said to the staff, the next meeting, I don't mind if you're there, but the leaders will be in the room, or we're not interested. Right. Literally, we weren't there to have our voices heard. Go ahead and draft and send us a letter. We said we wanted a seat at the table because we represented tens, if not hundreds of thousands of Michiganders who were on the ground struggling and needed to make sure they were being heard. And that's where we are today. We're in the same position, and they are reaching out to us, but they're wanting to know, what is the feeling of the people? I read what they say on our own social media, but what are they saying to you? What are they saying collectively together? That's a very important aspect of grassroots, is being able to communicate to them what collectively the voices are saying, and what the hurt that is happening. Share the stories with them so that they can have the strength to come forward and act as they should, because so often they're stuck in Lansing or back in their district in their own little worlds, and they really don't they don't understand or relate to what the people are actually going through. And I still don't think they understand what they have gone through because of us kind of sitting back and waiting for someone else to do it, whether it's a court, whether it's the governor, whether it is some other legislative branch. The fact is, they all need to stand up and do their jobs. And we're going to make sure they are. And Tammy has been diligent since this election has been done in getting connected. So Tammy, before I go through the next steps of what we accomplished, touch on just what's happened with the freshman group of very conservative House members that have been elected.
Yeah, I have this actually on my list of things to talk about. And this is, there's been a lot of conversation from people out there, just out and about in the communities and throughout the state. This is really a state of Michigan issue. As you know, we have hundreds of thousands of people that, follow Stand Up Michigan, and we hear from them all over the country. But this is a real specific Michigan state issue. And there's been a lot of question and a lot of just, misunderstanding and misinformation about our relationship with the legislature. And so one of the things that I'm really big on, and Ron and Pastor Jason, you guys know this about me by now, but a lot of people don't know that because of my business background, one of the things that I am, and as a consultant, I am really big on is communication, messaging, clear communication, consistent communication, and we have to be really good and proactive with our messaging. So I have tried very hard to work with and communicate with the people of this state that, look, we are a political cause. We are activists. You have to understand, you do not get into this world of trying to affect change within the legislature at the policy level without having relationship with the legislators. And that doesn't mean they control us. That doesn't mean we control them. It means we're at the table together talking. And the reason that they now are coming to us is because of all of you and what you guys have done, because we have been very successful in activating the citizenry. And because you guys have responded, we started out just by loving on you, just by giving you a place to come and care for you and talk to you and share your stories and just, send you hugs through the computer keyboard as best we could. But I think that genuine concern for the citizenry came across. And so as we grew our organization into a true organization, we have those three pillars, right? To care for you, to inform you, and to activate you. And the legislators have recognized that what we have successfully done by activating you has really caught their eye and caught their attention, because they know we have your ear. We have our finger on the pulse of what the conservative base in the state of Michigan is saying and thinking. Not that anybody controls anybody. It's just that we are a group of people that love each other. We appreciate the fact that we can come together and talk and work together to affect real change. And the legislature has taken notice. So now they are coming to us. What I have done. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. All right. So what I have been very busy doing is responding to that ever since the election. So what I am really interested in at this point is sitting down with the new freshman class one-on-one, individually, and starting to cultivate good relationships with them as we move into the next year. Because it is very important that as we work together to create good communication and relationship, we're not going to tell them what to do. We're not going to control them, just like they're not going to tell us what to do. But I have made it very clear to them that I will open up our platform, because we have such a big reach, to allow them to communicate with all of you. That's the whole point, right? Because we know mainstream media will not cover our conservative legislators. They are not able to get their message out. What legislation is being introduced, what bills they're introducing, and why. And there's a lot of backstory that goes on within politics, but they're not able to communicate anything because the media will not cover them. So as I've gone to them and said, listen, I would love to be able to get you guys on our platform. Here's my thoughts. Ron and I have talked about this, and Pastor Jason knows as well. Our thoughts are that we would love to open up our platform for a monthly roundtable with the legislators, especially those freedom-loving, constitutionally minded legislators who embrace and will protect and fight for your freedoms. We want to hear from them. So I'm going to be sitting down and having coffee in the new year as we come into the next few weeks, and starting to work on those relationships and bringing them into our monthly roundtable. I think the first one that we're shooting for is January 20. That's not set in stone yet, but I'm working on getting some of them to the table to just begin, communicating with you guys. And it'll be kind of an open Q&A. We'll be watching our messages, that as you guys have some questions for them, I'm going to give them an opportunity to talk to you. But then I'm also going to give them an opportunity to hear from you. So we'll make sure that we get that out in plenty of time each month, so that you can come prepared with some questions. Because, I have communicated to them, I'm not your mouthpiece. I'm not going to answer for you, but I also want to work with you so that we can help pass good legislation and get rid of bad legislation, like the 1945 law, right?
Perfect.
And that's what we've been working to do. And we're going to keep working on your behalf to make sure that your rights are protected and that no legislation is introduced that will impede upon your rights.
I think part of what people need to hear and what we're saying in this is Stand Up Michigan, while protest is in our toolbox, we are not simply a protest organization. Right. It's a tool that we use. And when we need to wield that sword, we will wield that sword. And we have done so very effectively. When we've had to call protests, we have brought protests, and we've done that. But at the end, but beyond that, even bigger than that, is this idea of activism and activating and getting people. And one chapter of that is involved in the political process, because we are still holding out hope for a political solution to our problems, because the alternative is something vastly different. And so we're still holding out hope. We are still working towards those political ends, which ultimately involves politicians, and us influencing them, making sure that they hear very clearly, not through the filter of the media and not through the filter of these paid for opinion polls, which I think a lot of times leads these politicians the wrong way. They have an agenda, but to give to these politicians an unfiltered voice of the grassroots, of the people. And so in Stand Up Michigan, there's not a lot of layers between those of you that are part of our Stand Up Michigan family, and the politician. There's not a lot of layers in between that. You tell us, or you make it known in our community, we share it with them. And so your voice is not being diluted. It's actually being magnified in an organization like Stand Up Michigan.
And they're listening and they're watching. And I remember right before the election, I was talking to one of the state reps who has been in the House for a couple of years. And I remember telling him, look, you got to stop paying attention to these polls. You're trying to walk the fence and play both sides of this. And that is going to backfire on you today. You need to be listening to the people, not these polls that are all over the place. Because what they do is, after a while, they start trying to appease both sides. And that's never going to work today. That's going to backfire on them every time. And I think they're listening now. I think they get it.
I think they do, but it's never going to end, because I think, honestly, they get surrounded by their staff and people that are literally stuck in Lansing. They work for one House member after another. They follow their same internal bad polling. They're so reactionary. And don't forget about the lobbyists. They are real. Now, some of them do not get involved with the lobbyists in the same way, and we certainly hope that more and more will not. It's one thing to take advice and let them have a seat and be able to talk with you. It's another thing to expect something in return for money. That's a different thing. We know it takes money to accomplish, especially at the Senate level, to win certain races or in House races. But I believe if you stand up for the right thing, you will get the money necessary to be reelected if you do what's necessary for the people. That is what's the key. If you do it for a government agency and then you have to apologize your way back out, I think that is definitely a two-edged sword. And some of them have already sold their souls, if you will. And we're hoping that those things are going to change as we move through with new people elected. And we can not only hold them accountable, but we can also advise them a little bit ahead and saying, look, let the people come in and talk with you, but don't be promising things for votes too quickly, because understand your vote is more needed when they can't count on you than when they can.
Right.
And that's what we found. It's very true.
Yeah. And what you all need to understand is that Ron, myself, Pastor Jason, everybody that is involved right now, Tony, not one of us can be bought. Not one. We are all very principled people. I personally am very justice driven. You can't put an amount of money in front of me and I will sell out. I believe the same is true with Ron and Pastor Jason. And that's the unique thing about this organization, is that we are very principled people and we can't be bought. And we are trying to now work with the legislators, especially this new class, to help them understand you're going to get a lot of pressure. It's not going to be long before a lot of you stop talking and you get real quiet on things you should be speaking up against.
And here's the perfect example, Tammy, is that House members, whatever, are supposed to be representing the people of their district, right?
Right.
This is why it's easy for us to say we can't be bought, because the fact is we are the voice of our people. I might feel differently, but if everybody behind us, everybody who joins here has one message about how they feel, I have to listen to that. I have to share that message with them, regardless if I personally even know that maybe it isn't possible, or maybe it doesn't matter. I have to let that voice be known, because I sit here representing them. I don't sit here trying to convince them to back up what I think. It is, yes, I'm going to give them the truthful information, and we have to move them forward as far as what is done, which is why I think, Tammy, your platform concept is so important, because there are some things in Lansing that we simply can't control, some budgetary things that are automatic that they don't have control over. It's a very small percent of the budget that actually is discretionary. And it's same way in school boards, same thing in cities. And what I'm saying is we have to make sure that those focuses and those issues are dealt with, and that information is shared with the people so they understand the process as well, not just when there's a problem. Which is when we seem to all get involved, is when there is an issue come up. Then we want to go show up at City Hall. We want to march on Lansing. But the fact is, we need to be there from day one and work through the process with them and guide them so that we become a better, stronger group of free people. And that, I think, is where we're at, which is a whole different place than we were. And so let's just tap on to the next one, which is Unlock Michigan. I've got questions about 1945 on here. Some people discouraged, whatever, but understand. I saw Amy was on live earlier today, and she talked about this Unlock campaign. Understand, this wasn't supposed to work. Citizen initiative, actually citizen driven, aren't effective. They aren't accurate. They're not going to get done. And it happened. You all did it. You all paid attention. You all joined up, 40,000 plus individual circulators. You watched a video. You did it proper. We had over 90% of done correctly when they were looked over. We accomplished something that has never been done in the state of Michigan in 80 days, over 500,000, 539,000 plus signatures.
In record time.
In record time, right. So it's record time, record citizen initiative. It's it's been looked at nationally as an example that they said couldn't be done. That's the reason we're being looked at in Michigan, is because there are so many of you that are being activated. And understand, a citizen initiative petition is not an easy thing, meaning to go ask people to sign a piece of paper and explain to them and deal with the challenges that happen is something that not everybody's cut out for. We had tens of thousands willing to do that. I realize it was out of hurt and anger and frustration and all that, but the amount of smiles that people got when they handed and got their petitions in the mail, when they sat out and made their homemade signs, when they spent their weekends throughout the months of July and August getting this done, it was miraculous, honestly. I was overwhelmed by what happened in the process. And when we turned those in, we knew that there was a battle ahead. We knew the Secretary of State wasn't going to just turn them in and we'll send it over to the legislature. We knew that they were going to first believe that they were going to take back the House. Therefore, this was dead until 2022. Guess what? We pivoted. After that, we got the House is maintained. We have the votes to do it. And this will be repealed, and it will be done hopefully sooner rather than later. As far as those that have asked about the 1945, we have filed Unlock Michigan. Again, Unlock Michigan is the campaign side. They funded this. They ended up filing specifically a lawsuit against the Secretary of State and the governor for not acting and doing what the people demand. A citizen initiative petition done is supposed to be simply reviewed signatures. When they have enough, it follows the process. They're not supposed to hold up the rights and the will of the people of Michigan. This lady that is sitting there, Benson, is going to pay the price in 2 years for a lot of things. But this is one that she is going to hold. We have not yet, when Pastor talked about utilizing the sword, we have not yet marched on Lansing to tell her who it is that she's holding up. But that day may very well come. But understand, for those that say we didn't accomplish anything, it is completely not true. We had David Coleman on, and he said, do you understand? 190 executive orders were gone, abolished, all the way back to April 30th. All of those cannot be redone. Not a single one of those can be reinstituted again. Now, is she utilizing the health department in other ways? Yes, but it's nowhere near the rights and the laws that she was able to operate under until we got the 45 done and then the Supreme Court acted. We will get this done, and it's vital that we do. You probably heard that yesterday she vetoed the House and the Senate saying, just repeal the law. Don't even bother with this. You can do it yourself. Get rid of an unconstitutional law. And she vetoed it. The governor does not care about the rule of law. The governor does not care about the rights and freedoms of individual people in this state or this country. And those of you that are out there who, if any of you that actually voted for her again, you voted for socialism. You voted for being controlled by a tyrant that is sitting there and who does not believe she has to work with any branch of government or the legislature or the people. She believes she has ultimate unilateral power to this day. And until a court continues to tell her no, and that's what we have to push next, is get the courts to tell her no. And we've got to make sure that she's up for re-election in 2 years. She has no idea what's coming. No idea.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this
unlock has been effective.
Talking about what's going on, with this class coming in is the first Stand Up Michigan class. In other words, the class that was before, we weren't even in existence, but now this is the first class that got elected in the political environment in which Stand Up Michigan exists, and is going to have to legislate in the political environment in which Stand Up Michigan influences. And so this is a whole nother thing. And that all those signatures, and we want to reiterate to everybody that worked so many hours, your work, we are fighting to make sure, first of all, your work gets seen all the way through. But your work did not go for naught. You contributed to the political process in a way that our system allows citizens at a very grassroots level to operate. And your voice was heard, is being heard, and will be heard. And so there's still future results on this. Yes. But when that many boxes show up, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, you take notice. Take notice when that many boxes show up.
That's right. And I've heard a lot of people, and I think it's very important that we clarify this, because I was just talking with another leader of one of the other Michigan groups yesterday who said, well, we knew the 1945 law wasn't going to do anything. We already knew that wasn't going to go anywhere. Well, that's not true. When the day that we turned these petitions in, the Supreme Court later that day ruled that the 1945 law was unconstitutional and everything she had been doing was illegal, basically. We know that it was a lot of your work and hard work seeing all those petitions turned in, over 200,000 more than we actually needed. And we had the voice and the support of the legislature. So we know that they're going to vote on it to override this law, or to recall this law, right? Don't think for a minute that did not weigh in on the decision of the court. They knew we got it done. They knew we had way more signatures than we needed. If you could take one of three and throw them out and still have enough signatures, plus you have the support of the legislature, we had said from the beginning, this law is going to go away one of several different avenues. And so we, the people, got busy. We spoke very loudly. You accomplished the goal. We put the pressure on the Supreme Court. We put the pressure on the legislature. And ultimately, our governor right now is in contempt of court. The Supreme Court told her, you need to stop doing this. The way that this law is being used and implemented is unconstitutional. You need to go back and work with the legislature. And she has thumbed her nose at the Supreme Court and just pivoted. She's just doing the same thing with other agencies. So she is in contempt of court. She's the one who needs to be held responsible. But the work that we did was very powerful and it was very effective. So there are two things that are still happening because of this. Number one, we know that once we get through this election craziness and the dust settles, we know that she has Secretary of State Benson, I'm talking about now, has no reason to say that she's not going to look at these petitions anymore. Well, I'm busy with the election and so I can't approve. There's no reason she can't say that. That's when we are going to need you to march on the steps of the Capitol. And we will do a rally cry at that point to send a clear message to her. We are through the election. There is no reason for you to be holding this up. Do your job. And that's powerful. And we know eventually it will get voted on. We know that she's going into a re-election. She does not want to go into a re-election with this hanging over her head.
No.
That would be career suicide for her, right? So we know that it will get done. And here's the other thing. We also have said all the way through, even if the Supreme Court rules that this law is unconstitutional at the moment, that's only this Supreme Court. If we lose the court, which we did, and we now have a very liberal court, a future court could then go back and turn it around and say, well, yeah, that court said it was unconstitutional, but we don't think it is. So they could reinstate it. And we've already heard Democrat legislators flirting with the idea of rewriting the 1945 law. So if you have a liberal court that overturns the previous court's decision and decides to keep it, and then you've got liberal legislators that want to rewrite the law, what's to say that down the road, Michigan's not going to go through this all over again? So we have to get this law off the books, and we have done the work we've needed to do to get that done. So we're still in the fight, guys, and we're still going to push this lawsuit. Unlock is pushing the lawsuit, and we're going to mobilize the troops if we need to get you to Lansing to march and force her to take action on this.
Exactly. And so let's move to the next things that we did. We made a decision as the unlock was going on, and actually started before that, that with all these lockdowns, that people had to return or feel and be normal. This whole new normal, we're not going to be together anymore. We're not going to organize. You can't get together and in gatherings of more than X amount of people. And we started out with freedom festivals that started out in Newaygo, Michigan, on 3 days notice, 72 hours from Monday at noon until the event on Thursday at noon or 1 o'clock, whatever time it was. And literally, we did not know if anybody was coming. We actually thought about 2 hours before maybe we're going to have a couple hundred people here. And it was emotional and overwhelming with the amount of people that showed up with American flags. It was the beginning. We started out with an idea that said, do not bring signs. We had seen some of the Lansing events and some of the other events, even down in Grand Rapids, where it was all the negative, attacking, angry, hateful signs. We understand the frustration, but we said, this is really about preserving our American way of life, the freedoms, and let's celebrate those. The reason it actually happened, if you remember, Pastor Jason, was because it was just after Memorial Weekend. Yep. And we decided, what is a better time to talk about this in Memorial Weekend and what we celebrate and what we're defending. And that was the reason we made the decision to go with the American flags and specifically no other signs, because this was in memory and we didn't want it to be about anything else. And it turned into be a theme. And all through the state, whether it was Brighton, which is where we brought Tammy in for the first time. Literally, we met, I think one time we'd met, right? Before then, Tammy. And then we said, you wanted to come, but you met the other board members over there.
I was actually only hired that week, and we did a Zoom meeting, and like 2-3 days later, hey, can you go to Brighton? And I said, sure, I'm all in at this point.
And here's a microphone. Rile them up.
That's right. That's right. And I got that picture. It's on video. So, but it's amazing. So we went through Brighton. We got contacted from a Christian music festival that had happened 2 times before. And people came from all over the country, but literally they were not going to be able to hold the festival, probably would not be having one again. And literally they said, would you partner with us to help run this event, to help put the word out there, at least help raise some money? We actually raised the money, and then Stand Up Michigan helped fund the fireworks that happened at that event. And that was, they not only brought in who they planned on bringing in, but they ended up getting 2 or 3 additional national Christian bands that had nowhere else to go play that came, and it was a very family atmosphere. It was one of the first times we were really hounded by the media because we were having these events against the mandates of too many people and gathering and too close and all of those things. And it was just an amazing weekend that I know everybody enjoyed. And from there, we went into Grand Haven, which turned out to be a miraculous event that they attempted to shut down. Literally, they were across you can't write this in a book. They were over on the hill with binoculars, the mayor, watching our event, and so upset at what was happening there that he was calling the police every 10 or 15 minutes to threaten us if they didn't shut us down, while he sat across the water and looked at us. That's the frustration and anger.
I remember why he was mad. They said, no, you can't come in. There's too many people. And so I said to them at that point, well, you can either take our money and let us come, or you can not take our money and deal with us because we're coming anyway. We're going to be a protest.
We became a protest on
and
that day.
They were so mad. We didn't know what to do.
And we held protests there. We held a protest in Traverse City, which was an unbelievable event with over 5,000 people. We estimate, we don't even know, but there were people lined up 100 deep or more for merchandise for over 3 solid hours. It was an unbelievable event that was supposed to have horrible thunderstorms everywhere around us, and it never rained. I mean, those were things that happened. As you know, the vice president ended up showing up the same day, 2 miles away, and it turned out that, he limited his to 500. We had 5,000. They didn't come to go just there. They came to a few for there, and they all came over to our event. But and we had people drive for 3 to 4 hours to turn in, unlock, and set up a tent out front to say, hey, if you want to hand deliver, we're getting near the end of this thing. We're going to reach 400,000 signatures at that time. And people drove just to hand them in because they didn't trust the mail service. And
Right.
we heard about that because they were set up in the parking lot, and it was just an amazing thing. And then, of course, we went from there into the event at the Detroit Athletic Club. And it was a thank you to the supporters and all the people that had been involved in the unlock and with Stand Up Michigan and the group. We also, at that event, invited Sheriff David Clark, who came in and honestly didn't know much about us. He didn't know much. He'd heard certainly about us. He had read some things of stories, watched a few of our little commercial things. But that was about it. But he came very apprehensive, I think, in coming in. He's very much a guy who really does vet. I think it's probably his all law enforcement background. But he really was like, okay, I just want to observe what's going on. Who are these leaders? What does this group mean? What do they really want to accomplish? And he came out of there, I think, different than he went in. And Tammy, you know more about that, but looking what happened yesterday, it came because of the Detroit event. Without that event, we would never have entered into the relationship that you've now developed, or the relationship that now Stand Up Michigan has with Sheriff David Clark.
Yeah, that's right. He was watching us, and at the same time, all of this was going on. That we had brought him in to speak for us at our first big fundraising event. He was dealing with the same things because he's a recognized leader in Wisconsin, and the people of Wisconsin were reaching out to him, asking him for help. And so he was already thinking of how to start an organization and how to organize. He's a big believer. If you listen to any of his podcasts or radio programs or anything like that he does, he's a big believer in organization. You don't get anything done unless you're effectively organized. And that's what impressed him about Stand Up Michigan. And so we started talking and developing a relationship of, back and forth of what are we doing. And he's been really great for me because he's been able to give me some advice. He's somebody who's been in the political world. He has dealt with a lot more attacks than we have. And so as we've gone through different things, he's been really good for me, helping me, give me advice on and counsel on some things as we grow. And then we started talking, well, maybe I could start a stand up in Wisconsin. And so I jumped on that real quickly. Well, of course you can, and we'll help you. Because that was our goal. So he didn't realize, I don't think at the time, that we had been planning after the election. We weren't sure. I mean, I don't think a lot of people realize that before the election, we were not sure if Stand Up Michigan was even going to stay around. What are we going to do with this after the election, right? And we just started realizing then, after Garrett decided to step down and explore some other things in his life, Ron and I started realizing that, look, we've built something very special. It's unique. It's historic. It's downright miraculous. And it's not because of us. It's because of who the Lord has brought together as a team. And we've all been willing to roll up our sleeves and do the work. But now we've got a platform. So what do we do with it? And we just realized that there's so much more work to do. And Ron and I were in a position with Pastor Jason as a support and a wise counsel to us, and some good friends working behind the scenes. We've got Tony with AZ Business Solution, who supports us and really donates a lot of work to Stand Up because he understands and he's so supportive of the cause. We decided to grow it. And so starting with Stand Up Wisconsin is actually a perfect geographical location. And it's also a perfect group to start with because they're already pretty powerful as far as their leader, their founder. They've got a lot of people supporting him, and they will be able to raise some initial funds, I think, pretty easily.
And Midwestern values, they very much are the same. So, Pastor, how about this one? We moved into, after these 5 events, we then moved to literally industry specific, the Stand Up restaurants. But let's talk about the Stand Up Churches event. It was something that started, and then you took hold of, and we had an incredible group of people there. But one of the things we talked about through this whole care aspect is getting the churches on record, getting them to open up. And that event was kind of the culmination at the state capitol before the election of what we needed to do as a group of people and faith-based.
Yeah, no, and to get people some confidence and give pastors some confidence to stand up. One of the things that Stand Up Michigan has tried to provide is to be a counter voice, because it's hard when you're in a leadership position and you have all these voices coming at you. And at your core, and pastors at their core want to try to do the right thing. And isn't that a phrase that has been co-opted in 2020? The right thing. And everyone in the world wants to grab a hold of what the right thing is. Even in the cancel culture and just the different things that have taken place, the phenomenons we've seen, and to remind these pastors of our founding principles and our guiding faith that defines for us what the right thing is, and to give them encouragement to stand together with it. It's hard to stand alone, but it's easier to stand in a pack, in a group. And yeah, that event was great. Pastors coming together, boldly speaking out. I got to tell you, even here at Emmanuel, from that event, we've had people visiting Emmanuel, just wanting to come here and see what's going on and how we're doing things, and phone calls with pastors to encourage them to open up their churches and really give some options. I see even in the comments, there's a number of people still asking, how do we get our churches to open up? And, one of the really simple things I try to tell pastors is listen to the right voices, but, start off by just giving people options, giving people's options. I'm a firm believer. One of my guiding principles is the government can't stand between you and your God. When it does, that's tyrannical. It's tyranny. And a government or a governor can't stand between us and how we worship God. And so I think it's our responsibility as pastors to provide those opportunities for people to worship according to the dictates of their conscience. And so we have, since the beginning here at Emmanuel, have offered in-person, drive-in, and online church. And people during various seasons of this year have had to utilize those different mechanisms, different ways, but they've all had them there available to them. And that is going to be part of our solution going forward. As we go from protest and complain and anger, I was like, Ron, how you said it, we have to equip each other. We have to help each other become the answers to our problems. We are the solutions. And that really begins with the faith-based community. And churches need to start being the solution. And the biggest solution that we need to do right now, the biggest thing we can do, there's some tangible things. There are, we ought to offer assistance. There's people that are hungry. There are people that need things. But the biggest thing that churches could do right now is to combat fear. Because it is fear. It's fear. It's what's paralyzing people. But this is the message that everyone has to hear. Fear fuels the enemy. Mm-hmm. The governor is operating on not on political currency. The governor is operating on the currency of fear. And the more we can escape fear and embrace faith over fear, the less power the governor has.
That's right.
So even before the political solution, even before we get all the votes counted, even before we get the repeal through, even before we persuade the legislators, if you would not have fear, then the government cannot tyrannize you.
That's right.
And that's how it comes down. And that's the number one thing that churches need to be saying right now. And they have to say it. They have to, even before they say it, they have to show it. And so they have to be the places of courage. And so that's what we need to encourage churches to continue to do. I know we had talked about last week about putting together a list of churches that would be willing. We're careful with our platform. And we can, the Lord has put us in a position of controlling a fire hose here. And we want to be careful who we point that fire hose of attention towards. Sometimes people aren't ready for that. But we do need some people willing to stand up and to be in the forefront and almost to put the target on their back to lead the state. And I appreciate pastors like Pastor Paul, who does the morning coffee, and other pastors who have stood up and have been willing to put the target on their back and really say, here we are. And I would say the same thing. I'm not looking for bad days, but I'm not afraid of them. And, to the attorney general, to the governor, here we are. We're worshiping in person. Tammy was with us this last Sunday. She saw how very normal it was here at Emmanuel.
It was refreshing.
Here we are. And you can't stop us. You can't stop us. And even if you try, the Lord is on our side, and I'm confident of that. And so as we go forward, that is a crucial part of Stand Up Michigan in 2021, to combat the fear And our answer to fear is our faith in the Lord Jesus Christ.
That's right.
Amen.
And I want to add one thing to that, because the reason that I felt strongly about participating in the Stand Up Churches event, we created a logo about it. It was wonderful to see the pastors who were there, and Pastor Jason, you were there, and it was really powerful. One of the reasons that I have felt, I grew up a pastor's kid. I've grown up in the church. I know the role of the church. And I know that this whole agenda is an agenda of deception, and it is an agenda of fear designed to control you. So when you see pastors going along with it, now I know there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. Maybe some of their board or the denominations they're a part of will not allow them to do anything differently. I get that. But I'm talking big picture here. When you see pastors going along with that and telling everybody they have to put the masks on, they have to social distance, they have to follow these mandates, all they're doing is aligning themselves with a wicked agenda, and they're purporting and furthering it. And that's been my whole thing is, guys, we can't be part of the problem. We have to recognize who we are and what we're called to minister to people and be part of the solution and stand up for truth. So I know it's been tricky, and I'm not trying to play the blame game, and I don't think any of us are. We're just trying to encourage them to stand strong, do what they're able to do, and keep speaking truth. So we don't unintentionally align ourselves with something that is wicked and evil, basically.
I was one of the Bible verses that really gave me clarity on how to go forward through this. It's Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 15. And the Bible says this, and deliver them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. And the fear of death it's a taskmaster, a tyrant, and it's a tool. And that's why we have life and hope in faith in Jesus Christ. That's why, like, very early in this thing, I thought we can't surrender Easter, because Easter, the very celebration of Easter is victory over death. And I can't believe we're still talking about this same fight. And we thought, Easter 2020 was under threat, but Easter 2021 is under threat. We're only 3 months away. And I this Easter needs to look very different than last Easter. And it needs to be a bold, and maybe we need to, we're doing some board planning right here on the air, but maybe we need to have a bold initiative of Easter 2021 of churches standing up, because we're going to celebrate victory over death. And you can't hold us down by the fear of death.
Well, and I see Jerry McCaleb's comment there. Hi, Jerry, longtime friend. And she's absolutely right. This will not end unless we end it. We are the only ones who are going to end this, guys. And that's how Stand Up Michigan started. And we are going to be bolder, and you are going to be hearing more from us, and we are going to be encouraging you to do more. I'm watching a lot of comments here about the masks and about this and that. And again, you've heard me say it. Stand up, pastors, stand up, individuals, take the masks off. Nobody can make you do it. Now, I understand if you're an employee in a job situation, something like that. But all these comments here about going into Myers and Lowe's. I don't wear a mask when I go into Myers or Lowe's. I just walk in without one.
Me either.
I know Ron does the same thing. So what are you doing? Take your mask off and just walk in. And if somebody says something to you, ignore it. I just ignore it. I know
that's the number one fear. The number one fear, death. But get rid of the fear of what other people think.
Exactly.
We have been marginalized because we have been afraid that people are going to think we're ridiculous. We're the crazy ones. We're not scientific.
Right.
I mean, Tammy's got more science. We got more science on our board than most of these other organizations, just with Tammy alone.
That's right.
And so stop. And that's the beauty of Stand Up Michigan, is because you get around some people who don't think you're crazy. You realize, there are some other people who just don't like the way that this feels. There's something in their soul that tells them this is not right. And you can stand up with like-minded people. And that's the beauty of Stand Up Michigan. And that's one of the great tools that we have, to be able to provoke one another unto love and good works, the Bible says.
That's what we got
to do.
Oh, and encouragement, right.
And people have never understood who we are, especially the enemy. They assume first that we were created by somebody with deep pockets who created this brand in order for them to manipulate the people, because that's what they are, manipulators, right? Keep Michigan safe, right? There was another one that was the governor's arm, why she raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to fight against all of us individuals. So, but we were truly the brand and the people. We are representing the people where they are today. The care aspect again was always for us to again be part of that solution in your own community for recovery whenever that is. We can do something today. The main thing I saw in day one, and I have to say it still exists today, is a lot of times people get inward. The more fear you have, the more you look at your own personal situation and you think you're the worst that has it. You're isolated because you're not with a group of people, and you feel sorry for yourself, and you're angry and bitter, and then you don't do anything. I always find if you start to recognize those around you and realize that they're other, either you share in your misery with those that are there and realize it's not as bad and that we're all in the same boat, but there's somebody that's always worse off than you. There's somebody you can be an encouragement for. There's a gift that you have that you can help a person or a church or a community, whatever area and that you happen to have in your community, which is why it's so vitally important that for Unlock, we did it. We went county by county, and now we're looking to move to county chapters and regional chapters of Stand Up Michigan, because the only way we're going to really grow in numbers and have real impact is going to be if you can have an impact and identify with those that are like-minded in your community. What you're going to find is there's a lot more Stand Up Michigan like-minded people, though there are hundreds of thousands that probably have never heard of us. They just don't follow any of this. They're not part of social media. Young people don't follow Facebook. Old people aren't necessarily on Facebook or social media at all. They're going to learn about it by literally face-to-face, talking about what it means to be a part of a group who represents what our forefathers put out, but not because of the words they put on the paper, but because of what they stood for, which they stood for the biblical principles, the foundation of our country. Those are the things that Pastor just talked about is you cannot get between us and our God. And guess what? Our government was created specifically with those principles in mind. That is our God. It is the representation of the free will of us as individuals and as people is what our foundation was about. We have to claim that. They do not have a right to hold those things against us. And the more that we have groups of people standing up in your own communities, the more effective we're going to be, not just from a statewide. Understand, if all we did was have you march in Lansing and let's hold big events next summer, and that's what we were all about, honestly, that's not important to me anymore. We will do those things. I want to know that we've had an impact on your own school board, your own county commission, that to have your own faith-based community. I want to make sure that you reach out and you begin to grow, that you shop local, that you have stickers that you provide for free for these business windows, and that and when you hold events in your home for Stand Up Michigan, that you will take out food from the most struggling businesses that you have and support them. And they will learn that you care about their community, because that's the truth. We care about each other. That's what, look, Jesus Christ came, and what did he do? He went and he dealt with the servants. He didn't go meet with just the leaders. Look, I'm a leader. I might as well just be with the leaders. No, he went with the people. All of us have to identify in our own communities with those around us. And that is the scope and the hope that we have for 2021. And it's going to start in January. It's going to start right now, and we're going to put that together, what it looks like, some messaging, but we want to have people start meeting in 10 or 20 at your house or living room, or 50 or 100 at a church, and you can call it a protest. You can hold events in different places immediately and begin to have like-minded pressure on your own community to make sure they're doing things and opening up and supporting your freedom and rights, and that you're going to also have an impact with your House of Representatives members or the leadership in your community to make sure they represent our principles going forward, so that we can continue. Like he said, this was the first class, Pastor said, of Stand Up Michigan House or legislative members who are going in there boldly, not going in there, I got to learn all these leaders, no, they're going in there because they know they have hundreds of thousands of people behind their messaging. And that's going to look different this Lansing in January in Lansing than it has in previous freshman classes. I really believe it.
Yeah, and that's true. And with our encouragement and our support, I think we're going to be a very good accountability partner for them, to hold them accountable. They're going in excited. They're going in with our partnership, not that we're their mouthpiece or anything like that, but that we are just encouraging them to stand for what they know is true and believe in them. And by partnering with us and by doing the monthly legislative roundtables, it's just going to be another layer of support and pressure for them to keep on keep it on and do what they know is right and don't sell out. That's really our hope and our goal, is to make real, true, effective change from within through relationship. And that's why you have to understand Stand Up Michigan is different, because we are about relationship. And I'm looking really forward to continuing to grow and cultivate the relationships with the other leaders from some of the other groups that I've been working with to do the big Christmas extravaganza. I had so much fun getting to know some of them and doing the silly song, the 12 Months of Crisis, and it was crazy, and we weren't very good at it, but it was fun, and you all laughed. It was hilarious, and you all laughed. And that's the whole point. When we get together like this in relationship, and we're all on the same path, I'm going to use Sheriff Clark's terminology because he keeps encouraging me, keep it simple. And remember, the messaging has to be consistent. One team, one goal. That's powerful. It's powerful, guys.
Because of the nature of politics in Lansing, politics is very self-interested, and that makes Lansing sometimes very dark, because it's dark.
Yeah.
And they get sucked into that darkness, and they think there's only one way to survive. And Stand Up Michigan can be the light. We can be a light. And listen, I meant that in a very deep spiritual way as well, because the overwhelming broadness of our constituency are Christians. And we are told to be the salt of the earth. And we understand that Jesus is the light. He is the light of the world. And so we can be the light. But we can also be the light in Lansing, and we shed light on these things that are going on. And even like I'm noticing, even in the comments, we're getting like comments. Well, what about this politician and what are they doing and whatnot? Let me just give you a little perspective here real quick. Without Stand Up Michigan, there really wouldn't even be a broad comment stream for you to even put that comment on.
That's right.
So even if we don't have the time in the broadcast, or it's not the focus of a broadcast for us to say something, they're watching this. They're seeing all those comments. It's getting out there. And so your voice is being heard. And just the fact that Stand Up Michigan is doing what it's doing is giving even a person a voice. But I know, Ron, you and I, we had mentioned this earlier, but we want that voice to be more than keyboard warriors. We need to be more than that. And Stand Up Michigan is more than that. And we want to activate people to be part of the solution in their community. Courage begets courage. There are probably 3 people in your social circle that would be more bold if they knew they had a friend that was bold. And your boldness will cause them to be bold. And when that snowball continues to happen, this will end. This will end. Because the governor is only doing this because she believes she can get away with it, that she can do it. At the end of the day, she's still a politician as well. And once the tide, and we believe, we don't believe the opinion polls that she's as popular as they say she is. Mm-hmm. But those opinion polls are, the media controls that as well. But once there is a swell of boldness that cannot, even the media can't hide and discredit and minimize. We've heard all through the summer, some of our Stand Up Michigan events have only had a few hundred attendees. That's hogwash. I mean, they have thousands of attendees. I mean, how do you minimize that? And as that continues to grow, and so that's why we need you to stand up and continue to stand up. And we talk about some of the things of having an organization, and we have merchandise. You know what the biggest goal of the merchandise is? It's not even to fund the organization. The biggest goal of the merchandise is to give you something to wear so you can identify yourself. That's all it is. We want tens of thousands of people all across the Michigan wearing the lantern and wearing Paul Revere and wearing Stand Up Michigan. And because not to line anyone's pockets. No. That is, we're wearing those things so that we can stand together. Just like we would support our sports team, we're standing together in a unified message, and we're representing, and that is being recognized and it's being seen, and it's known. It's a known thing now.
It is. It's a nationally known brand, and I would encourage you guys to get those T-shirts, get those hats, get those coffee mugs, get that merchandise. Yes, it helps to support our organization, which is critical. It takes funding to pay the bills and the expenses in order for us to keep going. But at the same time, what's really fun is when you are out and about and you see somebody else with a Stand Up Michigan hat, or I'm in my Stand Up Michigan t-shirt in the store and somebody pulls me aside and they recognize me. Oh my gosh, they first see the t-shirt and I get all kinds of comments, great shirt. But it does something for you. It makes you feel like you belong. You're not alone. And I just saw a comment on here from one of you that said too many are still not wearing, too many are not refusing to wear the masks yet. So let me tell you something I have learned from Sheriff Clark and that we're going to see happen in 2021. We are not at critical mass yet. This is something that I've heard him say many times. And he says we're getting there, but until we get to critical mass where everybody refuses, this isn't going to stop. We've got to get everybody refusing to wear the masks, everybody wearing their Stand Up Michigan gear, everybody collectively marching and just saying enough is enough. But we're not there yet. You can tell because people are still complying. And until we get to that point of critical mass where the people that are refusing to comply are more than the people who are complying, it's just not going to change. Right. And it really is up to us. It's up to the people. So we have to keep standing strong, spreading this message, encouraging, like Pastor Jason said, open your mouth and say it. Encourage others to do the same thing because courage is contagious. And until we get to critical mass, this is not going to stop. It's not going to go away. And it's totally up to us, we the people, when it goes away. What have you heard me say from stage? One word could end all of this real fast. Non-compliance. And until we get there, we're just going to have to keep dealing with it.
And that's the critical role that churches need to play. For some people in society today, it's going to take a little leap of faith. It's going to be an act of bravery to go out in the public and to take off the mask.
Yeah. And
so churches ought to be kind of like that safe place where you can go back inside, take off your mask and go, oh, okay, I can do this. And then you won't want to wear it anymore. You won't want, I just traveled with about 30 teenagers back from Atlanta. Tony and I, with our church, took a group of kids and we barnstormed every truck stop we came in. Imagine just 30 kids and young adults running in without masks. And they did. I mean, but you can't stop all of us. There was 30 of us walking in simultaneously. We were in and out before, so it was great to be able to kind of go through it. And there's power in numbers and, confidence in numbers as well.
And a lot of people I've heard have said when they start these county chapters, they want to get a group of people together to go to Meijer shopping at the same time. So there'll be a bunch of them without masks because they sometimes feel like they're one of only one or two or three in there and they feel like everybody's looking at them. All of a sudden, if 20 went in there, I bet you the next week there'd be 50, including 30 that aren't your part of your group. It is catchy. There's no doubt about it. And I'm not denying that the virus exists. We just are understanding, first of all, that the masks simply don't do anything, period. So don't mix that you don't want to wear a mask because you don't care about it. Believe me, they do not do anything in regards to stopping this virus. Look at California. They are the most masked up, locked up, and they have the largest increase of cases that are going on. It simply isn't stopping anything.
Well, the problem is it's creating worse health hazards. We have to talk about that. Nobody's talking about that. Not only does the mask, it's not rated to stop a virus. It won't do anything. It will make you sicker. It will actually increase the chance of spread. So we have to talk about the truth, recognize the truth, and some of the things. Well, Ren, I'll let you finish through your bullet points, and then we'll talk about where we're going. Some of the other things.
That was too much fun.
Well, it is, but we already covered at the Christmas event, which is how the Gretsch stole Christmas. The interesting thing about that is understand we reached out and definitely that was a complete collaborative effort with many grassroots organizations across the state. And Tammy is really building those relationships, and that will continue because we want to make sure we're not duplicating a bunch of efforts in regards to what we're focusing on or how we're going to do it, or especially things. We don't want to have multiple platforms that everybody has to pay for and where everybody's got to raise money to do the same thing over and over. If we have a way to be able to communicate that or provide a platform or that to other organizations to utilize, that's what we're going to do. They have to be like-minded in where we're going, but understand there are reasons for causes that a lot of these different grassroots organizations in Michigan are focused on. We're simply saying that we can be the umbrella for a lot of these, because we really don't have a single cause. Our cause is freedom, and we're going to have a much wider range of impact than a lot of the organizations are, because again, we're reaching people right where they are and not to come together for a single event or cause or purpose. So that was important. Obviously, I left Carl the Barber out. It became the national story. It was right over there in Owasso, Michigan. Amazing that it's the place where not only does Tony get his haircut since he was a kid, but it literally was followed along. But he became the poster child of a group and a business owner and an older gentleman who had been in business for decades, doing things to support himself and his family. And he said, "This is what I'm going to do." And guess what? He did not pay a fine. He did not get shut down. He ended up winning in the Supreme Court. And we've seen that happen again and again. And we do need critical mass on the other businesses to open up and do the same thing. We are now looking at national coverage of other things. We're on a national frontliner group. We are getting information on the Georgia race. I saw people ask about the Georgia thing. Understand this next Tuesday is going to be critical in Georgia. The voting ends actually today as far as the early voting. So it goes directly to the polls on Tuesday. The media is playing a huge part. They're doing a number of things, saying the machines aren't fixed, don't bother to vote. They're saying that the people aren't going to show up to vote. They're showing the polls of the Democrats in the lead. All this they're doing to try and suppress the vote so that they could potentially claim these 2 seats that would literally change our country forever. This cannot happen. We need to be prayerful over the weekend that the people will get out and vote, and that it will be an honest and fair election, that they have or will be locking down these machines and the crookedness that's been going on there. They had meetings up through today in their legislature there, and I want to make sure that this is done. You have people like Stacey Abrams' sister, for God's sakes, who literally is stopping people who should be cleared from the voter rolls from being cleared so that they have an opportunity to vote, even though they don't live in the state of Georgia any longer. That's what we're up against, people, and understand truth will prevail. We have to believe it. We cannot. We have to fight the battle where it is. But we also have to show up in vast numbers in order to, first of all, secure these seats, which will hold back anything from happening. And we're not giving up on what's going to happen on the 6th of January. That is a big time. We know we have multiple sets of electors that have gone. A lot of you, I know, have written to us that you're going and marching. We have a lot of Stand Up Michigan people that are going to be part of the Caravan from Lansing to DC for this event. They're coming from all those other states as well, from Pennsylvania, from Georgia, from whatever. It's going to be a gigantic event there. And I know that there's some people that are talking about some event at the Capitol again. We are actually going to be planning from Stand Up Michigan our way forward. Again, it's part of our strategic plan. We're having meetings with both the Stand Up Michigan group and the Stand Up Wisconsin groups on Wednesday and Thursday as we plan our way forward for the next step. This will take care of itself. We know that there's a lot of you that are participating. We will be praying for you on your journey and whatever, but we are planning and not moving from our strategy, which it has to be done to start the year out properly and for us to move forward. So, Tammy, it's a segue into some of the things that you already have been talking about working on.
So we've got our national advisory board. We for the very first meetings next week as well. So we're meeting with the Stand Up Wisconsin group and then our national advisory board. We're having people from all these groups that Ron mentioned. A lot of the different national groups that we've been working with have agreed to join our advisory board to help us as we move forward and we plan. Because one of the initial rules of business, anybody that's been a business owner knows, is you plan and you build your business today for what you want it to be tomorrow. And everything that I've done with Stand Up Michigan, I've said I want it to be done with excellence. I want it to be done properly so that we don't have to backtrack and spend time and money undoing something we didn't do right the first time. So we'll be having this week. We're not going to be at the Capitol. I've had a lot of people ask me, is Stand Up Michigan going to do something at the Capitol? And we are not, because we have this week, we have lots of meetings set up, strategizing this first week of January. But we have a lot of people from Stand Up Michigan, like Ron said, who will be going to Washington, or maybe some of the other groups will be, trying to organize something in Lansing as well, that we will definitely communicate to all of you and let you know as I hear more. But moving forward, there are a couple of things that I did want to mention that we're going to be doing. We're collecting, Ron and I right now are collecting the names of those who want to be involved in the county levels. Ron already mentioned that, but we're actively putting together a list of people by counties who have said, I want to be involved. Some will be leaders, some will be just participants, doing what they can as they can. But pay attention to our pages and our communications over the next couple of weeks, because we're really going to give you more information on that. We want to pull the trigger and get those regional meetings going, and then the county chapter meetings going as well very quickly. So there will be lots of opportunities for every one of you to get involved and affect real change. We're going to have different committees that are set up, and those committees will be working with each other all across the state. The different committees from each county can then coordinate, because that's really powerful when you can network together that way on a statewide level. And then we will be helping to connect you with the legislators for each county as well. So you're going to see a lot of really interesting things coming in 2021 from this perspective. I also wanted to let you know there's an awful lot of conversation still going on about the masks. So you've watched Kristen, Megan, and I, and we have had several more industrial hygienists, PPE professional respiratory protection experts, the frontline doctors. We have had a lot of people who are credentialed, like Kristen and I, stand up and speak out against this, that we have now gotten to know even over the last few months. So what I told Kristen, I have been communicating with her today, was I'm going to tease this today when Ron and Pastor Jason and I go live, because we need to do this in the next few months. We are going to be having a National Frontliners PPE Summit. And we're hoping to do that on the steps of the Capitol in Washington, D.C., because we are going to be getting some funding to support this. Kristen and I will be working alongside the America's Frontline Doctors to do an America's Frontline PPE Summit. And we are going to blow the lid off all of the lies and the deception about these masks and about this virus, the corruption that goes to the highest levels. You saw Kristen and I on the stage at the Christmas extravaganza as the two Cindy Lou Who's. Well, there was a reason for that. Emphasis on the WHO, the World Health Organization. The CDC just came out with nothing but a narrative of lies that specifically says face masks do not cause bacterial pneumonia. That is 100% untrue. It is a lie, and they are sweeping decades worth of science and data, facts, medical facts under the rug. It's like people like I in my profession, Kristen and I, industrial hygienists, just don't exist anymore. And they're all being silenced. So we are going to turn it around, and we're going to do a National Frontliners PPE Summit. And you're going to be hearing more about that, right? We're working on that behind the scenes. I'm working to organize and pull that together. And we're going to expose it all. So pay attention. And I love the shopping thing. You guys have got to get your courage on and go in groups. Go into the grocery store. 20 of you going in at a time. What are they going to do? And it's not until we all decide to stand up and say we've had enough and just refuse to comply, that's not going to end. So we've got a lot of really interesting things coming and real powerful things coming that we're organizing right now. And you're going to see, I think, more things that I don't even know yet that are going to be coming as we begin to collaborate with some of the other Michigan Patriot groups. So just keep an eye on our pages, and our website is going to be very quickly a broadcast platform. So you'll be able to just go right to our website and hear and see everything. That's what we're working with our tech group. We're actually going to be meeting with them next week as well. The 5th and the 6th, instead of being in DC, we're going to actually be meeting with them to help get this website, this platform, this broadcast platform in place very quickly. So a lot of really good things happening, a lot all at once. It's kind of hard for me to keep my head on straight sometimes, but that's what we're working on for all of you. So pay attention, and we'll do our best to keep you informed.
Well, I think one of the most exciting things that's happened this year, and will really mark our difference next year, is that Stand Up Michigan has grown and evolved from an organization that exists on other people's platforms to owning and having our own platform. And so connecting with us at the website, connecting with us via email. I know there's a lot of work right now behind the scenes going on even improving our email process and the way we're able to communicate with people that way, securely, effectively, and completely in our control. Unless you, sometimes I wish we let me put it this way. I've been utterly amazed being on this side of the equation to see the orchestrated attack behind the scenes against organizations like Stand Up Michigan. It is some of the most unpatriotic, anti-American activity I've ever seen ever, to silence the voices of Michigan, of Americans and Michiganders, and a concerted without any accountability. That's the problem. Is it's people that can make decisions that affect your life, silence your voice with no accountability, no recourse, no go and get a second opinion. And it just happens unilaterally. And more of your life is being controlled unilaterally by singular individuals that you didn't vote for, you didn't elect, and they're nameless. You don't even know who they are, and they're controlling your life. They are controlling the very things that you think. That Facebook stream that you're scrolling through is not populated by the stories that you're looking for. It is populated by an algorithm that wants to share with you a narrative. That's how disgusting this has become. And to see Stand Up Michigan work so hard this year to go from a ragtag group of individuals, I felt like we were like the founding fathers who were meeting in taverns and trying to figure out what we're going to do. I mean, our first tavern was the Z Hall, and we're eating Jeff Gulick's great culinary creations and being hosted by David Scarlin, to now formulating into an organization that has legal standing, has financial standing, and now has our own platforms that someone can't just turn off unilaterally. But we need you to connect with us on those platforms. We need you to connect with us on social media. We need you to connect with us on Locals, a platform that we completely control. It's not perfect, but it is. What is perfect about it is we control it, and it can't be shut off. So we need you to connect with us on that. And then that's what's really that should give you confidence that Stand Up Michigan has staying power. And
all of those that thought we were, that you're on our email list, but you've not been getting emails, understand that that's been a censorship as well. And Pastor Jason touched on it, but we are literally days away from having our own servers and our own email platform, which means that that's not going to be, you can be guaranteed it's not shared anywhere. It's not in one of those public domains where you're buying into a service that has those collected. It will be controlled and stored on our server. You will get those emails. They won't go to spam. You're also not going to be, triggered into other things. It's going to be solely so we can stay in contact with you, which means it's going to be more important even then that you're going to be able to share and print out those cards that you can see and start handing them out so other people can join that email list. It is the way we'll share a lot of videos, and we're going to have video platforms that are going to be off of most of these social media platforms as well very soon. It's one step at a time, but as we're moving more and more, we're becoming freer and freer from the control of others.
Yep.
It is expensive. It's methodical, and we're going to need to raise funds in order to be able to support all of this. But it is vital for us to be able to continue. It's not that we won't use the Facebook and the YouTube and that as long as it's available. It's always going to be an important way to reach people. But in order to stay connected, for you to be a part of us, joining the Locals and joining the email list will be the way that we'll connect. And then your own county and local regional chapters, which is going to be face-to-face, person-to-person, relationship-based. And that's how we're going to grow, and that's how our message is going to be really spread, like it used to be before we had these computers sitting in front of.
Right.
I thought was awesome. There was a comment that came through here a little while ago. Someone said, I haven't seen a Facebook post from Stand Up Michigan in a long time. And there's something what's cool about that statement is, well, first of all, Stand Up Michigan is not allowed to have a Facebook presence. That's why we have to come through you through these various portals. Every time we try to start anything that says Stand Up Michigan, it gets shut down instantly. I mean, so the amount of censorship that we have, it's criminal. I mean, it's like FBI surveillance upon our IP addresses. Criminal. It's amazing.
My cell phone.
This is guerrilla warfare for us to even get these messages out to you like this right now.
Yes.
But the fact that you're connected with us right now, even though we don't have a main Stand Up Michigan Facebook presence, is a testament to all the hard work that has been going on behind the scenes to preserve your voice, to have all these other platforms, to have these other mechanisms so that the information can get to you. I'm excited about some of the things that we'll be working on, not only with churches and encouraging churches coming into the new year, but I'm excited working with Tony about getting another positive podcast, a couple more content that we want to share with you. I'm looking forward to doing something that is centered around the idea of hope and giving people hope every day to continue to go on and have their souls anchored. Hebrews chapter 6 and verse 19 says, which hope we have as an anchor of the soul. And so this hope that anchors our soul. And so your soul needs to be anchored in hope. And I would say that hope is the person of Jesus Christ. Hope in his promises and his word. And have hope. Have hope. And you can have hope. And that's what it was. So long as we have hope, the enemy cannot win. And we can continue on. So your soul anchored. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And then I know we're talking about some other podcasts and content that we want to have coming out in 2021. Unlike many businesses, for us here at Emmanuel, COVID has increased our work. And so we were busier in 2020 than we thought we would ever be, just because of all the things that we've been managing and being able to move forward and go forward. And yet I'm looking forward to having a greater level of participation in 2021.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to start a campaign. I think I'm going to get with Tony to write up some really cool graphic or something that January 1st, and I've seen a couple of these comments come through, and Kristen and I've said the same thing. We've been talking about this. I'm just going to encourage you guys, take the mask off. It's a new year. Have a New Year's resolution. Mask off as much as possible. You can't maybe do it at work. I understand that, but you can at church. You can find a church that's open. You can in the grocery stores. You can in your everyday life. Nobody can force you to do anything. And until we get enough of us that have just had it and have decided to take that mask off, it's not going to change. And that kind of courage is contagious. And then it will give other people the encouragement to do that and the support. I've heard from so many people from around this country who have told me, Tammy, because of you, I did it. The first time was scary, but I did it. I took the mask off and now I don't wear one anymore. So if you do it, somebody else will be encouraged to do it. Somebody else will be encouraged, and that courage is contagious. So I'm going to see if Tony will help me get some really cool graphic put out there. And we're just going to make January 1, mask free. Let's take the mask off, guys. It's a great New Year's resolution.
And we're going to join together in person again. It's going to be done in your own local communities, identifying with each other. We're going to, when we send emails out, well, we already have from the Unlock what counties a lot of you were in, but those that you joined, we probably have 5,000 or 10,000 of you that have joined email lists in the last couple of months. We don't have your county. So we want to be able to identify you so we can reach out by county or region for you to be able to show up for events and meetings and because the challenges in each county are different. Some areas are very conservative and more open, and other areas are very locked down and controlled. And so we want to make sure that we have the same impact throughout the state of Michigan. And then we're going to share the success stories county by county. We want the same visuals that were there when we started in the stories. And then in the Unlock, it was pictures of you getting petitions and getting them signed. And now we want to have pictures of you at your own events, in your own home, pictures from Meyer, pictures of you supporting local business. And we're going to focus on those on our locals, on our website, and going forward, so that together we're gonna grow. Again, we're looking to do two things, right? Care, inform, and activate. But we're looking to preserve the American way of life. That's my motto for this coming year in 2021. Is what you're doing, preserving the American way of life. And understand what makes me prideful about that is that the foundation under that is that we're also going to be saving people by more people finding Jesus Christ as their personal savior.
Amen.
That is no more important thing in 2021, because if we could do both, free up ourselves, but free people forever, how dynamic is what we're doing. It's why I know that we're going to be blessed. It's why I know many of you are going to rise up and help us accomplish this. And we're going to create, whether some of the pastors recognize it or not, there's going to be revival across this state and this country. It's my job, I believe, to have faith and believe that can happen and will happen. It's your job to help make it happen. And I believe that is, we can do both. We can do more than one thing, right?
And that's what Kristen, those of you who have followed Kristen and I about for the science and the medical facts and all of that involved, with the world of mass. That's just one thing, right? And Kristen and I have said many times that the frustrating thing about all of this is that our government, who's pushing some of this, and the CDC and the World Health Organization, they have abandoned what we have always embraced in the medical and scientific community, and that is a multifaceted, multidisciplinary approach. It's just gone out the window this year. So at Stand Up Michigan, we are really doing the same thing. We are taking a multifaceted, multidisciplinary approach, and every single thing that we are working on, that we are focusing on, is all part of that big picture equation that comes together, that speaks to one thing, and that is freedom. So we are attacking lots of different things all at the same time, because that's how we are reacting, because that's how they have come at us. And we are responding and reacting. And it's been amazing how the Lord has brought the team together that is able to take on every single one of those heads, right? The beast with all the heads. We're attacking every single one. And my prayer has been, Lord, I don't just want to kill the beast. I want to cut the beast's head off with his own sword. And I have been watching as the Lord has brought this team together of people who are able to attack this thing in a credible way, speak to all these different multifaceted things that are coming at us at once. And we're being successful. It's not easy. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes time. We first have to reach critical mass and get enough of you standing up and actually refusing to comply. Then we can, we're fighting behind the scenes, but the three of us can only do so much, right? Until we can get all of you standing with us and refusing to comply with any of this, we're not really going to make a whole lot more progress in undoing the damage that's been done. But we're working on it, and we're forging our way ahead. We're following the Lord's leading. We're praying. We're behind the scenes working in unity. And I think 2021 is going to be quite a remarkable year because of all of this coming together.
And we can close here at 1 hour and 30 minutes, but I would like to see if Pastor Jason could say a prayer for all of Stand Up Michigan as we close out 2020.
Amen.
Yeah, what a wonderful 2020, guys. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this. You're my friends. I'm proud to stand by you, and I'm looking forward to the new friends we're going to have this year. All of you that are watching right now, whether or not you're watching it live or later on, would you join your hearts together with me for a moment, and let's pray and ask God's blessing on the next year on the great state of Michigan and these United States. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, Lord, we truly love you, lift you up. Lord, you are wonderful. Your grace is amazing. Lord, your mercies are new every single day. Lord, thank you for a faith that we can have in the Lord Jesus Christ. Lord, thank you as we just celebrated that he was born, took upon himself flesh, or became a servant, became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross, but rose victorious out of the grave. And Lord, you are our King. Lord, if there is a King, you are the King that we have. Lord, no King but King Jesus. And Lord, we thank you for what you've done here in the state of Michigan. Lord, the enemy meant to do evil, but what they meant for evil, you meant it for good. And Lord, a lot of good things have happened. And Lord, we give you blessing and praise for that. Lord, the new friends that you have, friendships that you have forged together, Lord, the renewing, the rekindling of some of these sacred values, Lord, that you've instilled in us, that you teach us in your word, Lord, that you've rekindled that fire, people involved in the process who have never been involved before. And so, Lord, we're praying that you would give us strength and power as we go into 2021, Lord, that we would be able to make a difference. Lord, we're seeking not only political change. Oh, Lord, that is part of our goal. And we're asking that you would move in the hearts of legislators and even the governor herself, Lord, and you would change their heart, turn their heart, Lord, cause them to repent before you, and Lord, acknowledge their evil ways, Lord, and acknowledge your ways. But Lord, even beyond a political solution, Lord, we are asking for a spiritual movement in our state. And Lord, that you would freedom, Lord, you are where you are, there is freedom. Lord, your spirit is the spirit of liberty. Lord, you command us to stand fast in the liberty in which you have made us free. And so, Lord, I pray that you would help rekindle a spiritual revival in the state of Michigan. Lord, help us to reignite these things, or to find the faith that you have given us, Lord, to find hope in your word, and Lord, to love one another. And so, Lord, we ask your blessing. Lord, we ask your help as we go forward as a state, as we go forward as a people in 2021. And we ask these things in your precious Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And we got 40 seconds till 1 hour, 30 minutes. What do you have to say as we close out, Tammy?
I just want to say that it's been wonderful working with you, for you, alongside of you. And I hope you all have a wonderful 2021. I'm looking forward to working with you and getting to know many of you more personally.
Thank you all. Have a great New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. And this next week, we got a lot going on. Stay in touch. We'll be in touch with you. Join our email list. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you would, share this video from our YouTube onto your platforms all across the state so more people want to get involved. I've left the email up here for these last 20 minutes of where you can at least send us your information and what county you're with so we can be in touch with you early in the new year to help us spread the word throughout the state of Michigan, because together we're going to accomplish great things. Have a great day, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Great New Year. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.